Hi everyone, in today's lesson we're going to talk about graphing cosine curves with vertical shifts. But first we have to analyze the equation. So if we're given cosine, it would be y equals a cos bx plus or minus d. So it works very similar to what we did yesterday with sine, where the absolute value of a is still my amplitude, b is still my number of cycles, and now this plus or minus d is still my vertical shift. And my vertical shift is the new midline that we are going to need. Again, the plus d means that we're going to go up, and the minus d means that we're going to go down. So let's try a couple examples and see how we do. Okay, so example number 1 we'll say is y equals 3 cos 3x plus 1. Again, over the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So take a minute and find your A, your C, your P, and your I, and then hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so in this one, my amplitude is the absolute value of the number in front, which is 3. My cycles is the number in front of the x, which is also 3. My period is 2 pi over b, where b is the number of cycles. So 2 pi over 3. My interval is period over 4. Period is 2 pi over 3 divided by 4. Remember that we have to keep, change, and flip this 4 over 1 to be 1 over 4. And we multiply straight across. So we get 2 pi over 12, which reduces to pi over 6. So my interval in this case is 1/6. And we are graphing a positive cosine graph. So in our heads, we need to keep this positive graph that starts up at the midline, at the maximum, and makes this U shape. So just like we did yesterday, we're going to have to set up our picture. And it looks like that my new midline is up at 1. So I'm going to go 1 tick mark up and draw in my new midline. So if it helps, we can write midline. My amplitude being 3 means that I'm going to go 3 above the midline and 3 below the midline. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So if I've already gone up 1, then this is 2, 3, 4. And if I've gone down 1, 0, -1, and -2. And let's set up our x-axis. This time we're counting by sixths. And again, we have to go all the way up to 2 pi. So we're counting by sixths. 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 6. 7, 6, 8, 6, 9, 6, 10, 6, 11, 6, 12 sixths. And I'm going to stop at 12 sixths because I know that that's 2 pi. Again, I'm really tight for space here, so please write in every single tick mark. I can even try 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. Again, keep going. 7/6, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's getting squishy, but you guys get the idea. You're counting all the way up till you get to 12/6 because that's 2 pi. And again, we are starting our graph at our maximum, midline, minimum. That's the plan of attack. So let's start our graph up at our maximum. First tick mark, we go to our midline, then our minimum, then our midline, then our maximum, then our midline, then our minimum, midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline, and then maximum. So if we connect it, we have something that looks like that. Now, I know my graph isn't entirely pretty, but the concepts are still there. We have an amplitude of 3. So from 1 to 4 is this distance, 3, yes. Do I see 3 cycles from 0 to 2 pi? Yes, I do. I have 1, 2, and 3. And how long did it take to complete that one cycle is 2/3. So if you look here, here's your one cycle. One cycle ended at 4/6, which will reduce to 2/3. And then as we did before, if I'm asking you to find your range, range is the smallest or the minimum to the maximum. And again, if you want the formulas for minimum, you take your vertical shift and you subtract your amplitude. And if you want the maximum, you take the vertical shift and add the amplitude. So my vertical shift is 1, and I'm going to subtract my amplitude and add my amplitude. And here's how I get my -2 and 4. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so we'll make this one number 2. So we have y equals -4 cosine of x minus 5 over the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So if you think you can try this on your own, feel free to pause the video and then hit resume when you're ready for the answer. So we've got our A, our C, our P, and our I. My amplitude in this one is the absolute value of the number in front, so the amplitude is 4. The number of cycles is the number in front of the x, which is 1. Period is 2 pi over b, where b is the number of cycles. So 2 pi over 1 makes 2 pi. My interval is period over 4. Period is 2 pi over 4 reduces to pi over 2. Now we know we have a negative cosine graph, so in our heads we need to know that it starts at the minimum and makes this mountain shape with these 5 main tick marks. So we want to set up our xy axis with my new midline being down at -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and draw in your new midline. Our amplitude 4 tells us to go up 4 and then down 4. So down 4 first, 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's label. So this is at -5, so down 4 would be -9, up 4 would be at -1. We need to set up our graph with pi over 2, so let's count by halves. So we have 1/2 pi, 2/2 pi, 3/2 pi, and 4/2 pi. 4/2 pi is 2 pi, so I know I can stop there. So we're starting our negative cosine graph because of the -4 down at our minimum value. My minimum value is here. Then we go up to the midline and then to the maximum. So my midline is here, then up to the maximum, which is here, then back down to the midline and back down to the minimum, and connect it so that it looks like a mountain. And that is your negative cosine graph with a vertical shift. Another thing I could ask you is to find the range. And the range in this one goes, the lowest value is -9 and the highest value is -1. And again, if you want to use those formulas to find the max and the min value, the minimum value is found by taking the vertical shift and subtracting the amplitude, and the maximum value is found by taking the vertical shift and adding the amplitude. All right, so one more. I'd actually like you guys to try this one entirely on your own. So we'll say this one is y equals -2 cos 2x plus 4. Again, over the interval from 0 to 2 pi. and then hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so here's what I got. All right, so just a few things to recap. You should have 8 tick marks across your x-axis. Your new midline is at 4 because of your vertical shift, and you have to go up 2 and down 2 because of your amplitude. It's a negative cosine graph, so it starts down at the midline, and every tick mark, it creates this mountain shape. So starts at the midline, minimum, midline max, midline minimum, midline max, midline minimum. You're just following that pattern. There are 2 cycles between 0 and 2 pi. So let's see, 1, 2, yep, 2 cycles. Period is pi, meaning I see 1 full cycle from 0 to pi. And I definitely did, because 4 pi over 4 is 1 pi. And then the last thing would be to find the range. Oops, that's very large. So the next and last thing would be to find, like I said, the range, which would be minimum of 2 and maximum of 6. All right, that's it for today. If you have any questions, please let us know. Have a good night. I'd like you to try this one on your own and then hit resume for the answer. So we'll call this one example number 3. So we have y equals 4